In today's video, we're going to be looking at a pretty amazing generator, and I say that because this thing is loaded with features. Now, of course, you could run on gasoline, but this thing even runs on propane. It uses the same tanks that you use for your gas grill, but the features don't stop there because you've even got remote start. The best part is it's actually affordable. So let's take a look at this generator and what it can do and put it through all the tests. I've reviewed a lot of generators, but I've never seen one that has the features of this or the same ease of use, and that's what makes this so different. This is the Westinghouse iGEN4500DF generator. Now the DF means dual fuel, so that means gasoline or propane. And as we unbox this thing, let's take a look at what you get inside. Of course, you're going to get basics like things like a book, but what I love that they include is all the propane components you need. You get the regulator right there, along with a connection hose. Now there's been generators available for years that ran on propane, but you had to kind of put them together yourself or modify them. This thing comes from the factory ready to go with everything you need. You see that you also get the oil, a funnel, even some tools to get started. Now this is very different, especially in this price category. Now this thing weighs a little bit, but they've done something really clever here. It's got this pull-out trolley handle that lets you balance the machine. You can easily transport it around. Done a great job with this control panel. As you can see, there's a ton of stuff in a small space. I love that they put these rubber protective covers on there to keep the outlets from getting rain or dirt in there. And you've got, of course, your RV outlet along with the standard household plugs, but you've got a slew of other stuff, including this magic switch, which is how you switch between gasoline or propane. They've really made it that easy. And in addition, of course, you've got parallel operation outlets, which just means that you can connect two of these together if you want. And they've even included things like this USB plug so that you can power things like your phone or a computer. And this last digital data center, they call it, is really just a control panel that's going to tell you what's going on, but they also even give you a digital gas gauge, which is very unusual. And just like a fancy car, you've even got push button start, which is pretty cool, and you do have a pull start cord as well if you need it. For our first test, we're going to use just regular gasoline to run the generator. Now, a couple of important things that make this different is there's no choke on this generator. And all that means is that once you've put your fuel in and you pull start it, there's nothing else to worry about, where most generators have a manual choke. So as you can see, this thing just runs and you don't have to touch it again. And this has a 3.4 gallon gas tank, and that will allow you to run up to about 18 hours depending on your load. But now things are going to get very different for this generator because we want to run it on propane. So we're going to take a regular type of propane tank that you use, say, for your gas grill. Now they include this thing right in the box, and this is your propane regulator. Now this is bigger than the one you're going to have on your grill, but it functions exactly the same. And that large piece right there is going to connect to the tank with that small blue connector, and it's really easy to do. But I recommend starting first by switching the unit to the propane position, and then when we undo this little plug, you're going to see that brass fitting there, and this is where you're going to connect the small end of that hose that they include in the box. You'll start by hand threading the connection, and you do this because you don't want to damage the threads, but what's great is they even include this small wrench that's perfectly sized for that nut so that you can snug it up and make sure that it's gas tight. Now we're going to grab the other end of the hose, and that's where your regulator is. Now this is exactly the same type of setup you'll have for your gas grill, and you're going to thread this onto your tank. Now no tools are required here. You don't want to use any. You're just going to snug it up as tight as you can by hand. And make sure that you've got the regulator pointing down, just like I've shown there with the black hose pointing to the ground. Now we just turn the valve in the propane tank to the open position. In less than 1 minute, we went from gasoline to propane mode, so it's pretty amazing. Now all we've got to do is fire it up. We'll turn this switch to the run position. You'll make sure that that efficiency mode switch is in the off position, and finally, just push the push button to start it up. And this thing fires right up, it runs smoothly, and there's no choke involved, so you just sit back, and now the generator's running. Being able to run on propane and gasoline makes this thing a lot more versatile. Now you should note that when you're running on propane, you're only going to get about 3,300 watts because propane is always going to put out a little bit less power. And that cool digital gas gauge unfortunately doesn't work when you're using propane because it can't tell how much is in the tank. Here we're going to connect a load to the generator. Now that's only a small heater, but it does use 1,500 watts. And running this heater was perfect on this generator. It didn't cause any issues and it ran smoothly. Now you should be aware that that digital gauge in the front will give you things like load, runtime, operating hours, which is pretty amazing for a generator that costs under $1,500. Now this generator is very quiet. In fact, right here it's about 25 feet away and it's running at its maximum speed. This is as loud as it'll get, and it's only about 58 to 59 decibels, and it was very, very quiet. For our next sound test, we're going to put that efficiency mode on, and that just means that the generator is going to run to whatever the load is. So in this case, 56 decibels is about the quietest this generator will be, and that still is very, very quiet. Now, many of us have remote starters in our cars or trucks, and you know how handy they can be, but you might be surprised that you can actually find one of these on a generator, and this iGEN4500DF also includes a remote starter. And this can be very handy, especially if you're in a campsite or you want to just be able to remotely control it. And it is so simple to use. You just push the button to either on or off, and the machine will completely fire up. And this is when having no choke is really critical, because if you had a manual choke, a remote starter could never work properly. But in this case, it's simple to use and you have complete control over the machine. Overall, this generator is absolutely awesome because they packed it full of features, made the price affordable, and you get the dual fuel operation. I've never reviewed a propane generator in the past because they were usually garbage. You had to either hack up your own generator or they were like a homebrew solution. This is a factory built model that everything gets included in a box and you're ready to use it no matter what kind of fuel you want to use. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, got you to see something you may not have even known existed, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel for more videos coming up.